Have you ever had that moment, maybe it's 3 in the morning and you're just staring at the ceiling?
Oh, yeah. The 310 a.m. question.
Exactly. Or, you're just watching the evening news and you see another story about a war or a crime that just makes no sense. And you find yourself asking, why?
hmm
Why is the world like this? And maybe more to the point, why are we like this?
It's the question that usually hits us when our defenses are down, when we can't rationalize it away anymore.
It really is. You look in the mirror after doing something you swore you wouldn't do again.
Hmm.
Maybe you snapped at your kids or you told a little white lie to get out of trouble. And you just think, is this a glitch?
Right. Is there something wrong with my wiring?
Yeah. Did I catch a virus somewhere along the way? Or, and this is the big one, are we just foot soldiers in some massive cosmic war that we didn't even sign up for?
You're asking the fundamental question of the human experience. I mean, you're asking about the nature of evil and the nature of the human condition itself. And the really fascinating thing is, depending on where you were born or which spiritual operating system your culture has been running on for the last couple thousand years, the answer to that question isn't just a little different.
No.
It is world-shatteringly different.
Operating system is such a great way to put it because it's running in the background, even if we don't think of ourselves as religious, right? It shapes how we see everything.
Oh, completely. It changes how you raise your kids, how you write your laws, how you treat criminals, how you look at your neighbors, even how you think about death.
Wow.
If you think the human machine is broken by design, you treat it one way. If you think it's just, dirty and needs a good wash, you treat it in a totally different way.
And that is exactly what we are doing today. We are going on a deep dive into 3 completely different diagnoses of the human condition.
3 different operating systems.
Precisely. First, we're going to tackle the Western heavyweight, the Christian doctrine of original sin. Then we're going to pivot, all the way to Japan and look at Shinto.
Which has a worldview that I think will surprise a lot of people.
It really will, because it basically lacks the concept of sin entirely.
Mm.
And then, for our final act, we're going to ancient Persia to look at the philosophy of Zoroastrianism.
Which, as you said, reads like a sci-fi blockbuster script. It really does.
It's incredible.
And this isn't just a theology lesson, This is an exercise in anthropology and cosmology. Because how you define the problem, that determines the solution you reach for.
I love that analogy you used before we started.
Yeah, if you think your house is on fire, you call the fire department. If you think your house is just muddy, you get a mop.
But if you think your house is under attack by burglars,
You get a gun. Different diagnosis, different tool.
that's it. And today we're going to see which culture grabs the hose, which one grabs the mop, and which one grabs the gun. And we have a serious stack of sources to help us unpack all this. We've got From Genesis to Judgment, Original Sin Fully Explained, from the Logos Bible software team, which is incredibly thorough.
Very detailed.
We've also got some heavy lifting from Wikipedia on the history of that whole doctrine. Then for the Eastern perspective, we have the classic book Shinto, The Kami Way, by Dr. Sokyo Ono.
A foundational text. And to round it all out, we have this very dense, very interesting paper from Harvard's repository called Zoroastrian Responses to the Problem of Evil, which really breaks down the logic of one of the world's oldest monotheistic faiths.
So our mission today is to deconstruct evil. Is it a disease? Is it just dirt? Or is it a full-blown enemy?
A cosmic opponent.
Exactly. So let's start with the one that is probably most familiar to a lot of our listeners, the one that's likely running that background code for Western civilization.
The fall.
The fall.
Yes, the Christian doctrine of original sin. And we need to be very precise here right out of the gate because the Logos source makes a distinction that I think most people miss.
Okay.
When we talk about original sin in a theological sense, we are not talking about doing bad things.
Right. It's not about the time I stole a candy bar when I was 7 years old.
No, exactly. That's a result of the condition. Original sin is about being bad. The source calls it inherited corruption.
Inherited corruption.
The core argument is this. We aren't sinners because we sin. We sin because we are born sinners. It describes a state of being, a fundamental alteration of human nature itself.
I think this is where the modern mind usually just revolts a little bit. You hear that, you think, wait a minute, I'm a pretty decent person.
Of course.
I pay my taxes, I'm nice to my neighbors, I recycle. I don't have original sin. But the doctrine says, no, sorry, it's in the firmware.
It is in the DNA. And the logic the theologians use to prove this, and this is laid out quite starkly in the Logos material, it's actually a very tight logical trap.
It really is.
It revolves around what they call the logic of death.
This part of the research was pretty grim, but you have to admire the consistency of the argument. So walk us through this logic of death.
So if you look at the scriptural basis for this, specifically Genesis 3, where Adam and Eve are expelled from the garden.
Right, the famous story.
And then you jump to the New Testament, to Romans chapter 5, where the Apostle Paul analyzes that event. The claim is that death is the wage of sin.
The wage, meaning death is the paycheck you earn for sinning.
Exactly. In this worldview, death is not natural. It's not just part of the circle of life, like in The Lion King.
Yeah.
It is an intrusion. It is an aberration. It's a punishment for this inherent corruption. So the theologians look at the world and they ask a simple observational question. Who dies?
Everyone.
Everyone. Okay, but specifically who else dies? Who dies that complicates the picture?
Infants. Newborns.
Children who have been on this earth for maybe an hour, maybe a day.
And that's the clincher, isn't it?
That is the devastating proof in their eyes. These infants haven't had the time or, the cognitive capacity to commit a personal sin.
Right. They haven't lied or stolen or hated anyone.
They are, by all accounts, innocent of any action, and yet they die.
Oof. That is dark. But I see the syllogism.
It's a tight one.
If the penalty for sin is death and a baby dies, then that baby must have had sin attached to them somehow, even if they didn't do anything to earn it.
Correct. It is a retroactive proof. The Logos source cites Psalm 51, verse 5, which is a famous verse where King David writes, "Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me."
So it's not a learned behavior.
No, the argument is that the corruption is transmitted biologically. It's hereditary. It's not something you pick up on the playground because you hung out with the wrong crowd.
No, it's something you bring with you right out of the womb.
It's a pre-existing condition.
Ideally stated. So that brings us to the how. If this is a hereditary condition, a disease, how does it get from Adam, this, mythical first human to me, sitting here in this studio thousands of years later?
Right. What's the transmission vector?
Yeah. And the language the sources use here gets incredibly visceral. They don't talk about it like a legal record being passed down. They talk about it like a pathogen.
The medical metaphors are absolutely dominant in the history of this doctrine. You have early church fathers like Cyprian of Carthage, and then much later the Protestant reformers like John Calvin, all describing sin as a contagion, a disease, or a pollution. They really view humanity as a singular organism that has been infected at its source.
And this leads us to the heavyweight champion of this idea, Augustine of Hippo.
The architect.
Yes, the Wikipedia source really paints him as the architect of the Western mind on this. He's the one who really laid the bricks.
He is. Augustine is arguably the most influential thinker in Western history when it comes to psychology and sin. He didn't invent the idea of the fall, but he crystallized it. He gave it the rigid, logical structure that the West has used for 1,500 years.
And he focused on a concept called concupiscence.
Concupiscence. Now there is a $10 word.
It is. We need to unpack that for the listener because it sounds super technical, but it's actually something we all feel every single day.
It translates roughly to hurtful desire or disordered passion. It's not just desire itself. Desire for food is good. Desire for companionship is good.
Yeah.
It's desire that has gone off the rails. It's that feeling of wanting something you shouldn't want, or wanting a good thing like food or sex in the wrong way, or, way too much.
So it's the addiction mechanism, basically, the part of you that wants the whole sleeve of cookies, not just one.
Yes. But here is where Augustine gets very specific and pretty controversial. He linked this disordered desire specifically to the act of human reproduction.
Of course he did. He had a bit of a complex about that part of his life before he converted, didn't he?
He certainly struggled with his own passions, and it deeply colored his theology. He argued that because humans are conceived through sexual intercourse, which involves this, uncontrollable passion, this heat where reason is temporarily suspended, the flaw, this concupiscence, is passed down through that very act.
So the medium of transmission is the creation of life itself. The very thing that keeps the species going is the thing that dooms us.
Precisely. He used this Latin term, massa damnata.
A condemned crowd.
A condemned crowd, or sometimes it's translated as a lump of perdition. The idea is that humanity is like a single lump of dough. Because Adam, the starter, was corrupted, the whole lump is now moldy.
So every loaf of bread baked from that dough
Every human being.
comes out of the oven already spoiled.
That's the idea.
Now, surely, in the history of ideas, someone stood up and said, hold on a minute, that sounds incredibly harsh.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, condemning a newborn to being part of a condemned crowd just seems to conflict with the idea of a just and loving creator.
It wasn't accepted quietly. This wasn't a polite meeting in a library, like we said. This was a theological brawl that shaped the future of Europe. And this is where Pelagius enters the ring.
Pelagius, the
Yeah.
rebel. I have to admit, I find myself rooting for him when I read this history.
A lot of people do. Pelagius was a British monk, and he came to Rome around the same time Augustine was writing all this. And he was, by all accounts, just horrified by what Augustine was teaching.
He thought it was an insult to God.
A direct insult. He asked a simple, logical question. If God creates each soul individually at the moment of conception, how can a good God create a soul that is already evil?
That seems like a very fair point.
It's a great point. If the soul comes directly from God, it must be good. If it's born bad, then God made a mistake or God is malicious.
Right. If I buy a brand new car from the factory and the engine is already blown, I blame the manufacturer. I don't blame the car.
That was his exact point. Pelagius argued that sin is spread by imitation, not propagation.
So nurture, not nature.
Exactly. We aren't born bad. We're born neutral, maybe even good. We're blank slates. But then we look around and we see our parents lying, we see our society being greedy, we see violence on the news, and we copy it. It's a learned behavior.
So under Pelagius' system, theoretically, you could live a perfect life. You could choose not to sin.
Theoretically, yes. He was a big believer in the power of human free will. He believed you could just choose not to sin. You don't need a magical transformation of your nature. You just need to exercise your will, discipline yourself, and stop copying bad examples.
He thought Augustine's view made people lazy.
He did. He thought it was a cop-out. Because if you believe you are born rotten, you have an excuse for everything. I couldn't help it, God. It's just my nature. Pelagius said, no, take responsibility for your choices.
So you have this epic showdown, nature versus nurture. Augustine says it's in the blood. Pelagius says it's a learned behavior. Who won?
Augustine won, decisively.
But why? I feel like Pelagius' view is so much more optimistic and, frankly, more palatable to our modern sense of fairness and justice.
It is nicer. It feels better. But the church leadership at the time realized that Pelagius' view, if you follow it to its logical conclusion, it breaks the entire system of Christianity.
How so?
Think about it. If you can be good on your own, if you're born fine and you just need to try harder...
Then why did Christ need to die?
Exactly. If I can swim to shore by myself, I don't need the lifeboat. If perfection is possible through sheer human will, then the cross becomes unnecessary.
It just becomes a nice gesture, a good example, but not a rescue mission.
Right. And the Western Church decided that without the doctrine of original sin, the whole structure of redemption collapses. They needed the diagnosis to be fatal so that the cure could be absolute and necessary.
So they condemned Pelagius as a heretic.
They did. And that set the course for the next 1,500 years of Western thought.
So they doubled down. You are sick, and you cannot cure yourself. You need a doctor.
That is the core Western diagnosis. But, and the sources are good about showing this nuance, not all Christians view this sickness in the exact same way. The Logos source points out the big difference between the West and the East.
The Eastern Orthodox view.
Right, the Greek-speaking church. They accept that something went wrong with Adam. They call it ancestral sin, but they draw a very important line. They reject the inheritance of guilt.
How do you have the sin without the guilt? That sounds like a contradiction.
They change the metaphor. In the West, especially with Augustine and later the Protestants, the dominant metaphor is a courtroom. Adam committed a crime, and we are all co-defendants. We share in his legal guilt.
We're accessories after the fact.
In a way, yeah. But in the East, the metaphor is a hospital. Adam got sick. We inherited the consequences of his sickness, mortality, a fragile body, a broken environment, a tendency toward passion. But we aren't personally guilty of eating the fruit.
So a baby who dies isn't guilty. They're just a victim of the consequences.
Precisely. It feels like a significant shift in the vibe of the faith, as you said earlier.
It's a huge shift. It changes the religion from a judicial system where you're seeking acquittal to a therapeutic one where you're seeking healing.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And then even within the West, you have the Protestants and the Catholics arguing about just how sick the patient is.
Yeah.
The Wikipedia source goes into this split during the Reformation.
Yes. So the Catholic position, which is heavily based on Augustine but moderated a bit, teaches that baptism washes away the guilt of original sin.
Okay, so you're back to square one spiritually.
Right. But that concupiscence, that tendency to sin remains. It's like a scar. However, and this is key, the Catholic Church teaches that the tendency itself isn't a sin.
It's like dry tinder. It's only a problem if you throw a match on it and actually act.
That's a great analogy. Feeling the urge to punch someone isn't a sin, but actually throwing the punch is. You're not held accountable for the temptation, only for the consent of the will.
Okay, that makes sense. But the Reformers, Luther and Calvin, they took a much harder line.
Oh, much harder. They looked at the 10 Commandments, specifically the last one, you shall not covet. And they said, wait a minute, covet is a desire, it's a feeling. The commandment itself forbids the feeling, not just the action.
Oh, wow. So for them, the tinder itself is illegal. The dry wood is already a fire hazard.
Exactly. Calvin argued that the fact that you even want to do something bad shows that your nature is fundamentally corrupted. For him, concupiscence is sin.
So even the unbidden thought is a mark against you.
Yes. He believed we are obnoxious to the wrath of God by nature. He said even infants, before they are born, carry the seed of sin within them.
Calvin really did not let anyone off the hook.
He was ruthlessly consistent. If the heart is the problem, then the desires that spring from the heart are sinful, regardless of whether you ever act on them. He famously called the human heart a perpetual factory of idols.
Wow. And just to show how diverse this whole landscape is, the sources mention groups that came later, like the Mormons, the LDS Church, who basically loop all the way back around to a Pelagian view.
They do. The Articles of Faith for the LDS Church state it clearly. Men will be punished for their own sins and not for Adam's transgression.
So they explicitly reject original sin.
Explicitly. They believe children are born innocent, pure, and only become accountable for their actions as they mature. It's a very American, individualistic take on it. You're responsible for you, not for some ancient ancestor you never met.
So that's the Western diagnosis in all its various forms. We are broken. We have a virus. Whether it's a legal guilt that needs a pardon or a genetic sickness that needs a doctor, the flaw is inside us.
It's an internal problem.
Exactly. Now, I want to completely change the scenery. I want us to just clear our heads of courtrooms and hospitals and factories of idols.
A palate cleanser.
A major one. We are getting on a plane and we're going to Japan. Because when you open Dr. Ono's book, Shinto, The Kami Way, you realize you are in a completely different universe of thought.
It is a radical pivot, and the first thing you notice in Shinto is what is missing.
Right.
There's no founder, no Jesus, no Buddha, no Muhammad. There are no sacred scriptures like the Bible or the Quran that give you a set of commandments, and crucially for our discussion today, there's no concept of original sin.
None at all. Not even a hint of it.
None. There's no fall. There's no expulsion from a Garden of Eden. The starting point of Shinto is not that humans are fallen or broken or sinful.
What is it then?
The starting point is that humans are children of the Kami.
And we need to define kami, because translating it as gods doesn't quite cover it, does it?
No, gods is a really poor translation because it makes you think of big, powerful beings sitting on clouds like Zeus or Odin, separate from the world.
Right, judging from afar.
Dr. Ono explains that kami includes deities, yes, but it also includes spirits in nature. A majestic old tree can be a kami, a mountain, a waterfall, the very phenomenon of growth, thunder, the wind. The kamis are not distant judges. They are the vital force of the world. They are the energy of life itself.
And Dr. Ono's book talks about the centrality of blood, or this parent-child relationship.
Right, and this is the key to the whole worldview. If the kami are sacred and the source of all life, and we are the direct descendants of the kami, then we share that sacred nature.
So we're fundamentally good. We're made of divine material from the start.
That's the core belief.
Okay, that sounds great. But I have to ask the obvious question. If we are fundamentally good, why is there evil in the world? Why do people kill each other? Why is there selfishness? Why do I snap at my kids? Where does that come from?
This is where the mirror analogy comes in. It is one of the most beautiful and, I think, helpful images in Shinto philosophy.
Okay.
Imagine the human soul is a perfect mirror. By its nature, a mirror is bright, shiny, and reflective. It's pristine.
Okay, I'm picturing it. A brand new, polished silver mirror.
But as you live in the world, what happens to a mirror? Dust settles on it. Mud gets splashed on it. Maybe some exhaust fumes from a passing bus coat it. You neglect it.
It gets dirty.
It gets dirty. That is what Shinto calls sumi, or kigar. It's pollution, impurity.
So evil isn't a rot from the inside, it's just dirt from the outside.
Exactly. It is external. And this changes the solution entirely. If you have a rot inside like cancer, you need surgery. You need a savior to come in and cut it out. You might need a transplant. But if you just have mud on your face, what do you need?
You need a washcloth and some water.
You need to wash. And that is why Shinto is so obsessed with ritual purity. If you go to a shrine in Japan, what is the very first thing you do?
You wash.
You don't drop to your knees and confess your sins to a priest. You go to the water basin at the entrance, the temizuya.
You wash your hands and you rinse your mouth.
You purify. The clapping you hear at shrines, the kashiwad. It's meant to call a kami, but it's also believed to clear the air, to dispel negative influences. The waving of the haragushi, that wand with the white paper streamers that the priests use.
Right, I've seen that.
It is all about sweeping away the dust, the pollution. The goal is to restore the original brightness of the mirror. It is an incredibly optimistic worldview.
It really is. The source calls it a bright outlook. It focuses on musubi, which is this mysterious power of harmonization and creation.
Yeah, the power that brings things together and fosters growth. It's a life-affirming principle.
But I'm curious, how does Shinto handle death? In Christianity, as we just spent a lot of time discussing, death is the ultimate enemy. It's the wage of sin. It's the final proof of our fallenness.
In Shinto, death is viewed as the ultimate source of pollution. It's dark, it's heavy, but it's not a punishment for sin.
So it's not a moral judgment.
No, it's just something that creates a powerful impurity. It's like stepping in a massive pile of mud. It's inevitable, but it's very, very dirty. You need to be cleansed from any contact with death so that life can continue.
So the goal of Shinto isn't redemption in the afterlife?
No, the goal is harmony in this life. It's about living in a way that keeps your mirror clean and doesn't splash mud on anyone else's mirror.
That distinction is massive. Christianity is often about being saved from this fallen world. Shinto is about being in tune with this sacred world.
Think about the Torii Gate. That iconic red gate you see at shrines, maybe floating in the water at Miyajima or standing at the entrance to a forest. It doesn't have a door that locks. It doesn't shut you out. It just marks a transition. You walk through it to move from the mundane world to the sacred space. But they are both in the same physical reality. There is no unbridgeable chasm between God and man that requires a savior to cross.
You just need to walk through the gate and wash your hands.
And remember the inherent sacredness of things.
It makes you wonder how that shapes a culture. If you believe you are basically good but just get dirty easily, you probably focus a lot on cleanliness, on etiquette, on keeping things orderly.
And on community. Think about it. If I am polluted, if I have spiritual mud on me, I might get that mud on you. My impurity can affect the group. So I have a responsibility to stay clean for the sake of the group harmony.
So it's a horizontal responsibility made to you.
Yes. Whereas the Christian guilt is often seen as vertical. It's between me and God. Shinto's focus is much more on the social and natural fabric.
So in a Shinto context, a sin isn't really breaking a divine law. It's disrupting the flow. It's being a nuisance.
Exactly. It's lacking consideration. It's making a mess. It's creating discord where there should be harmony.
Okay, so we have two models so far, and they could not be more different.
Night and day.
Model 1, the patient in the hospital, Christianity. We have a genetic defect. We're born sick. We need a cure from the outside.
We need a doctor.
Model 2, the mirror that needs polishing, Shinto. We are made of sacred material, but the world is dusty. We need a constant bath, constant maintenance.
We need a washcloth.
Now, I want to take a sharp left turn into something that, as we said, feels like the plot of a Marvel movie. We are going back to ancient Persia.
Yeah.
We're talking about Zoroastrianism.
The logic of the battlefield.
This Harvard paper, Zoroastrian Responses to the Problem of Evil, it starts with a logic puzzle that has driven philosophers crazy for thousands of years. It's called Epicurus's riddle.
Right. It's the classic trap for anyone who believes in a single, all-powerful, all-good God. It goes like this.
Lay it out for us.
Is God willing to prevent evil, but not able?
Then he's not omnipotent. He's weak.
Is he able, but not willing?
Then he is malevolent. He's mean.
Is he both able and willing?
Then where on earth does evil come from?
It's a brutal logic. If God is all-powerful and all-good, evil shouldn't exist. But it does. I can turn on the TV right now and see it. So, the riddle concludes, your God is either weak or he's a jerk.
And most monotheistic religions They tie themselves in knots trying to answer this. They talk about mysterious ways or how evil is necessary for soul building.
All sorts of complex theodicies. But Zoroastrianism looks at this riddle and says, we reject the premise. They have a radical solution. Dualism.
Two gods.
Well, two primal spirits, to be precise. You have Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, the good creator. He is light, truth, order, life. And then you have Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit. He is darkness, lies, chaos, death.
And the core idea here is that evil is not just a lack of good. It isn't just a shadow or a mistake or a privation.
No, it is an active, aggressive, intelligent force. It has agency.
It's a villain.
Yeah.
A cosmic supervillain with a will of its own.
Yes, and these two have been locked in combat since before time began.
The Harvard paper breaks this down into 7 different approaches, which shows just how much Zoroastrian thinkers wrestled with this over the centuries. We won't have time for all 7, but I want to highlight the ones that really blew my mind. The first one is the twins.
This comes from the Gathas, which are the actual hymns believed to have been composed by Zoroaster himself, and it speaks of the two spirits as twins. This suggests an absolute dualism. They are co-equal, co-eternal, they are primordial.
But if they are equal, that's terrifying.
It is.
That means the good guy might lose. There's no guarantee.
That is the philosophical problem. If they are equal twins, why do we assume good will win? It implies that God, Ahura Mazda, is not omnipotent, at least not yet. He is fighting for his life. He is fighting for the universe.
So he's not sitting on a throne watching the show. He's in the ring, boxing.
He's in the trenches. And this solves the Epicurus riddle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why doesn't God stop the evil? Because he can't. Yeah. He's trying with all his might, but the other guy is just as strong.
It saves God's goodness by sacrificing his absolute power. He's the benevolent general, but the war is still raging, and he needs help.
Exactly. But there is another view in the paper that I found even more compelling and arguably more disturbing. It's the parasite view.
Oh, this one was like something out of a sci-fi horror movie. Break this down for us.
So this is the view of scholars like Shulshakht and Mary Boyce. They argue that Ahura Mazda, the good spirit, has a physical form. The term is Gedig. He has substance. He created the material world. He made water, fire, earth, plants, animals.
Okay, so he's a creator.
But Angra Mainyu, the evil spirit, has no physical form. He is pure spirit, but in a negative, destructive way. He is a void.
So he's a ghost, a non-being.
A non-being is a good way to put it. He cannot create anything. He can only destroy or corrupt what already exists. He is, in essence, a parasite. He needs a host to exist and act in the material world.
And we are the host. Or the world is the host.
The material world is the host. And this leads to a fascinating twist on why the world exists in the first place. In many other systems, like Gnosticism, the material world is seen as bad, a trap for the soul. The body is a prison we're trying to escape.
Right. Fly away to glory. That whole idea. Leave this corrupt world behind.
But in the Zoroastrian view, it's the complete opposite. Ahura Mazda created the physical world as a trap for evil.
Wait. So the world is a mousetrap.
Yes, a cosmic mousetrap. The logic is, Ahura Mazda knew this destructive, formless enemy existed. He knew Angra Mainyu would try to attack and spoil anything he built, so he built this beautiful physical universe specifically to lure the evil spirit in. He made it juicy and tempting.
Like cheese.
Exactly. Once Angra Mainyu entered the material world to spoil it, he became trapped in time and matter. And now that he is trapped, now that he has a physical battlefield, he can be fought and destroyed.
That turns the whole idea of world weariness on its head. The world isn't a prison for us, it's a kill box for evil.
Precisely. It radically validates the physical world. Matter is good. The body is good. Working, farming, having children, these are good things. We are here to help spring the trap. We are the immune system of the cosmos attacking the virus that has invaded.
Which leads perfectly to the synthesis by Boyd and Crosby, the authors of the paper. They call it the play.
The play, or the cosmic drama. They argue that Zoroastrianism, over time, moves from dualism to monotheism. It starts with two opposing forces, but it ends with only one.
How does that work?
The weapon Ahura Mazda uses to ensure his victory is time.
Time is the weapon. How?
Think about it. If you have infinite time, the battle between two equal forces never ends. It just goes back and forth forever in a stalemate. But by creating a world with a beginning, a middle, and an end, Ahura Mazda forces a conclusion. He sets a clock on the war. And here is where it connects directly to us.
We are not bystanders.
We are not just patients in a bed or mirrors to be polished. We are active duty soldiers.
The source says our good deeds, our good thoughts, our good words, they actually weaken the evil spirit.
Yes. This is the most empowering part of the whole philosophy. Every time you tell the truth instead of a lie, every time you cultivate the land, every time you are kind, every time you have a child or do a good deed, you are landing a physical blow against Ungur Manu. You are depleting his power. You are shrinking the void.
That gives incredible weight to ethical action. It's not just about following rules to get into heaven for yourselves.
No.
It's about helping your God win the war for the entire universe. If I slack off, if I choose the lie, the enemy actually gets stronger.
It redefines omnipotence. God isn't he who can do anything instantly. He is he who has the wisdom and the plan to eventually win. He has the long game, and he needs us to execute the strategy on the ground.
So, okay, let's recap the three models because the contrast is just so stark.
Lay them out.
Model 1, Christianity, the patient. We have a chronic hereditary condition. We are born broken. We need a cure from the outside. Grace, Christ. Model 2, Shinto, the mirror.
Yeah.
We are fundamentally sacred material that just gets dirty. We need constant maintenance and ritual purification to stay in harmony with the cosmos.
Right.
Model 3, Zoroastrianism, the
Right.
soldier. We are free agents enlisted in a cosmic war. Evil is a real external enemy we have to actively fight and defeat.
It's a brilliant comparison. And notice what each model does to the concept of free will.
Yeah, let's dig into that. In the Augustinian Christian view that won the day in the West, free will is kind of broken, right? It's compromised.
It is severely damaged. Augustine would say you are free to choose, but because your nature is corrupted, because your wanting mechanism is broken, you will inevitably choose sin unless God intervenes with grace.
So you're like a compass that's been damaged, and it always points south instead of north.
That's a perfect analogy. You feel like you're steering, but you're only really capable of going in one direction without external help.
But in Zoroastrianism, free will is the whole point.
It is the entire mechanism of victory. If Ahura Mazda forced us to be good, it wouldn't count as a blow against evil. It wouldn't deplete the enemy. He needs us to choose him, to choose truth and life freely. The war is won by the accumulation of billions of free good choices over the course of history.
Every choice is a bullet fired in the war.
Exactly.
And what about Shinto? How does free will work there?
In Shinto, will is less about a dramatic moral crossroads of good versus evil and more about alignment. It's about Michi the way. Are you in sync with the way of the kami, with the flow of nature, or are you fighting it?
So it's more like tuning an instrument than fighting a war. Are you in tune or out of tune?
Yes. Are you acting like a true child of the kami, or are you letting the dust obscure your true harmonious nature?
It's just fascinating how these ancient operating systems are probably still running in the background of our societies today, even in a largely secular age.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the West is so obsessed with law, guilt, justification. Who is at fault? What are my rights? Am I innocent or guilty?
That is the deep legacy of the courtroom theology. We see everything through the lens of guilt and acquittal. Our entire justice system is built on this foundation of individual culpability.
Meanwhile, Japan is famous for its focus on ecology, cleanliness, social harmony.
Don't be a nuisance. Keep the environment pure. Apologize for disrupting the flow. That is the Shinto operating system running in the background. It's about maintaining purity and harmony for the collective.
And the Zoroastrian legacy, where do we see that?
You see it in the Western concept of progress, the idea that we can fix the world, that history is linear and moving toward a final victory of good over evil, that we are responsible for making things better through work, technology, and innovation, that active ethical drive, that is very Zoroastrian.
The idea that we can build a better future, a heaven on earth.
We can repair the world. We can fight the darkness.
It makes me think about how we react when we see something terrible on the news, a horrible crime, a senseless war. If I'm running the original Sin software, I think, that person is broken. We are all broken. What a tragedy. We need mercy. We need a new heart.
A sense of shared fallenness.
If I'm running the Shinto software, I think, that person has lost their way. They are severely polluted. Society needs to be cleansed of this. We need to restore the harmony that was broken.
It's a disruption to be corrected.
But if I'm running the Zoroastrian software, I look at it and I think, that is the enemy at work. That is an act of evil. We need to fight it. We need to stand up and destroy that evil before it spreads.
And the truth is, most of us probably flip between these three modes without even realizing it.
That's so true.
We want the mercy you feel for the patient, the optimism you have for the mirror, and the sense of purpose you get from being the soldier.
Maybe that's the ultimate synthesis.
Yeah.
But I love that thought from Boyd and Crosby at the end of their paper. The idea that your very definition of God changes based on whether you think he allows evil or is actively fighting it.
That is the provocative thought to leave with, isn't it? Do you want a God who is in total sovereign control, even of the bad stuff, which is comforting in a way, but logically very difficult? Or do you want a God who is down in the trenches with you, maybe bleeding a little, but promising that if you fight alongside him, you will win in the end?
That is a huge question. Is he the judge or is he the general?
The king on the throne or the commander on the battlefield?
We are going to leave you with that to chew on. This has been a deep dive into the architecture of good and evil.
It's been a pleasure exploring the battlefield with you.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Keep thinking.